You know what terrifies most people in relationships? It's not losing the person they love. It's losing themselves in the process of trying to keep someone. There is a unique kind of power that radiates from a woman who knows she can walk away, not because she wants to, not because she doesn't care, but because she refuses to settle for less than she deserves. A woman who values herself never fears walking away from what diminishes her worth. She understands that her value isn't determined by how much she is needed, wanted, or desired by another person. Instead, it's rooted in how deeply she respects herself, her time, her energy, her emotions, and her standards. She doesn't allow anyone to rent space in her life if the cost is her peace. She has worked too hard to build her confidence, heal from past wounds, and grow into the woman she is today to let someone else's inconsistent affection or disrespect tear it all down. She doesn't seek validation through someone else's approval. She knows that her sense of self cannot be outsourced. That's why she never compromises her standards just to keep someone around. She's not interested in proving her worth to someone who doesn't already see it. That's the key difference. When a woman knows her value, she doesn't fight for a seat at a table that keeps pulling the chair away. She simply stands up, straightens her crown, and walks away, not in anger, not in revenge, but in alignment with her truth. This kind of woman is dangerous in the best way. She's not loud about her power, but she doesn't need to be. Her calmness speaks volumes. Her silence sets boundaries. Her distance commands respect. The moment someone treats her as if she's replaceable, she lets them test that theory, and she never looks back to see if they regret it. That's not her concern. Her concern is protecting her energy from people who confuse love with control or affection with convenience. And because she's not afraid to walk away, she's also not afraid to be alone. That's what gives her leverage. She doesn't view solitude as a punishment. She sees it as sacred space where she reconnects with herself, where she remembers who she is, where she reclaims her strength. When someone who knows their value enters a relationship, they do so from a place of wholeness, not need. And that changes everything. It means they don't cling, they don't beg, they don't settle, they observe. They listen, they assess whether someone truly adds to their life or only distracts from it. She knows that love is not a transaction, it's a reflection. A reflection of how you feel about yourself. If you feel empty, you attract people who drain you. If you feel full, you attract people who respect your overflow. So she does the work, the inner work, the healing work, the hard work, because she understands that if she doesn't love herself, she'll keep entertaining people who don't either. That's why she sets the bar. That's why she doesn't flinch when someone walks away. Because the one who truly deserves her won't need to be convinced. Neediness repels, self-respect magnetizes. This is one of the most powerful truths in any relationship dynamic. When a person enters into a connection with a desperate need to be chosen, validated, or loved, that energy communicates insecurity. It doesn't matter how attractive, intelligent, or kind someone is. When they show up begging for attention or approval, it signals to the other person that they do not fully believe in their own value. And when you don't believe in your own value, it becomes difficult for others to believe in it either. Neediness is not just about actions, it's about energy. It's the subtext behind the text. It's the "I'll do anything to keep you" underneath every message, every call, every compromise. It's the emotional weight placed on someone else to make you feel worthy. That pressure is overwhelming, and it's why people often back away, ghost, or pull back when they sense it. Because they're not rejecting the person, they're rejecting the emotional burden of being the source of someone's happiness. Self-respect, on the other hand, is magnetic. When someone walks into a room grounded in who they are, knowing they have value regardless of who acknowledges it, that's attractive. There's no desperate need to prove anything. No games, no chasing, just calm, confident presence. That kind of energy is rare, and people are drawn to it because it feels secure, stable, and elevated. It's not that this person is better than anyone else, it's that they are rooted, and roots are powerful. When you lead with self-respect, you don't overextend to be liked. You don't bend your boundaries to be accepted. You don't silence your needs to avoid rocking the boat. Instead, you stand tall in your truth. You communicate clearly. You listen without losing yourself. And because you're not afraid to walk away from what doesn't feel right, people are more likely to step up, respect your standards, and meet you at your level. The irony is that the moment you stop needing someone to choose you is often the moment they do. Because neediness is heavy, but self-respect is light. And people are always more drawn to what feels light, freeing, and authentic. Self-respect creates space for others to want you, not because they feel obligated, but because they are genuinely inspired by who you are and how you carry yourself. This doesn't mean you never show vulnerability or that you act cold or detached. Self-respect allows you to show up fully, but without sacrificing yourself in the process. It allows you to care deeply without becoming dependent. It empowers you to love without losing your sense of self. And that's the difference. One comes from a place of fear of abandonment, fear of being alone, fear of not being enough. The other comes from a place of knowing your worth, your value, your standards, and refusing to compromise them for temporary attention. Emotional detachment isn't coldness, it's clarity. It's the ability to separate your emotions from your decisions without disconnecting from your humanity. It means having the wisdom to pause, to step back, to assess situations without being pulled into the chaos of your feelings. People often confuse emotional detachment with not caring, but that's a misunderstanding. True emotional detachment is when you do care, but you're not ruled by that care. You love, but you don't lose yourself in that love. You're invested, but not enslaved. You're open, but not exposed. This kind of clarity allows a woman to respond, not react. She doesn't spiral when things don't go her way. She doesn't fall apart when someone pulls away. She doesn't chase closure from those who don't respect her enough to give it. Instead, she observes. She watches what people do when she stops trying so hard. She pays attention to the energy that comes toward her when she's no longer initiating. Emotional detachment gives her space to see what's real, what's healthy, and what's worth her time. In relationships, clarity is power. When you're emotionally entangled, it's easy to overlook red flags, to excuse poor treatment, to justify inconsistent behavior. You feel too much, too fast, and you attach your worth to how someone else is treating you. But when you're detached, you stop looking at love as a performance or a prize. You stop asking, how can I make them stay, and start asking, does this even align with who I am? That single shift changes everything. Detachment creates emotional boundaries. You no longer feel the urge to fix people, to prove your value, or to make someone see your worth. Instead, you observe how they treat you and let that asterisk be the answer. You don't need constant reassurance because you've already reassured yourself. You don't chase someone to validate your feelings because you've learned how to validate them on your own. And because of that, you operate from a place of calm confidence rather than emotional chaos. This doesn't mean you avoid vulnerability. On the contrary, it means you choose asterisk when asterisk and asterisk where asterisk to be vulnerable. You don't hand your heart to just anyone. You share your truth, but only with those who have shown they can hold it with care. You're no longer available for relationships that drain you, confuse you, or keep you guessing. Clarity gives you the strength to say, "This isn't enough," and actually mean it. You start to see who adds peace to your life versus who disturbs it. You become less reactive and more reflective. You take time to feel what you feel without letting it cloud your judgment. You recognize that not every emotional high is love, and not every low is rejection. Emotional detachment keeps you grounded. It protects your inner world. It teaches you that your power is not in controlling how others act, but in how you choose to respond. The power lies not in controlling others, but in controlling what you tolerate. Many people waste years trying to change someone else, convincing them to be better, to treat them differently, to love them the way they need to be loved. But that energy is misplaced. The real power doesn't come from bending others to your will. It comes from recognizing your own boundaries and enforcing them without apology. It's not about trying to manipulate someone into meeting your standards. It's about deciding what you will and won't accept, and letting your actions speak louder than your words. A woman who understands this stops arguing over repeated behavior. She stops explaining the same needs over and over again. She knows that people hear her through her choices, not just her voice. If someone continues to disrespect her, disregard her feelings, or cross the boundaries she's clearly set, she doesn't keep pleading. She makes a decision because she's not interested in controlling the outcome. She's interested in controlling her peace. When you tolerate inconsistency, you teach people that your needs are optional. When you tolerate disrespect, you teach them that your respect can be compromised. Every time you stay silent when something hurts you, every time you let a red flag slide, you're sending a message not just to the other person, but to yourself. You're telling yourself what you believe you're worth. And the most dangerous thing about tolerating less than you deserve is that you start to believe you don't deserve better. Controlling what you tolerate requires courage. It means walking away even when you still care. It means saying no even when you're scared to lose someone. It means putting your well-being above your fear of being alone. But that's where the shift happens. The moment you start filtering your life through the lens of your standards rather than your insecurities, everything changes. You stop negotiating with people who make you question your value. You stop needing closure from those who never gave you clarity. You stop giving second chances to people who didn't value the first one. This level of personal responsibility is rare because it requires you to stop blaming others for how you feel. You stop saying they keep hurting me and start asking, why do I keep allowing it? That's not self-blame, that's self-awareness. It's the decision to stop being a passive participant in your own life and become the gatekeeper of your energy, your time, your heart. You're not here to convince anyone of your worth. You're here to live it. And when you do, the people who are truly meant for you won't need to be managed, manipulated, or reminded. They'll simply align, because real love doesn't come with confusion. Real respect doesn't need to be forced. And real connection flows where it's invited, not where it's demanded. When you take control of what you tolerate, you take control of your life. Walking away isn't giving up, it's leveling up. It's the decision to choose yourself when staying would mean shrinking your spirit, your standards, or your self-respect. People often mislabel walking away as weakness, as if letting go means you've failed. But in truth, It's one of the strongest moves a person can make. It's a statement that says, I will no longer participate in something that diminishes me. It's not about bitterness or revenge. It's about evolution. It's about understanding that your energy is sacred, and who you give it to determines the quality of your life. There comes a point where trying harder becomes the problem, not the solution. When you're constantly giving more than you're receiving, constantly explaining yourself, constantly holding space for someone who doesn't reciprocate, you start to lose yourself. That's when walking away becomes necessary, not as an escape, but as a return to your own values, your own peace, your own growth. Because the truth is, not everyone can go where you're going. Some people are only meant to be lessons, not lifelong companions. And knowing the difference is what levels you up. The moment you walk away from something that no longer serves you, you create space for something better. Better peace, better alignment, better love. You stop clinging to potential and start aligning with reality. You stop hoping for change and start making room for someone who doesn't need to be changed. This isn't about perfection. It's about compatibility, effort, and emotional safety. When those things are missing, staying becomes a form of self-abandonment. Walking away teaches you who you are without someone else's approval. It forces you to confront the discomfort of solitude and realize it's not emptiness, it's freedom. It's clarity. It's the deep breath you didn't know you were holding in a relationship built on tension and confusion. And in that clarity, you find strength. You start making decisions from your intuition rather than your insecurities. You stop waiting for people to treat you right and start treating yourself right first. This act isn't driven by ego, it's driven by truth. The truth that love without respect is manipulation. The truth that attention without intention is distraction. The truth that promises without follow-through are empty. Once you fully absorb that, you no longer settle for crumbs when you know you're worthy of the whole table. You no longer get stuck in cycles of almosts and maybes when you're clear on what you deserve. The beauty of walking away is that it becomes a filter for your life. It shows you who really values you, who's willing to rise to meet you, and who only showed up when you lowered your standards. It reminds you that your presence is not a given, it's a gift that you no longer hand out to those who can't handle it. When you walk away, you don't close your heart, you clean it. You don't become harder, you become wiser. When she stops chasing, she starts choosing. There is a powerful shift that happens when a woman no longer pours her energy into trying to be enough for someone else. She stops auditioning for love. She stops performing for validation. She stops measuring her worth by how much attention she receives. Instead, she begins to evaluate who actually aligns with her values, her peace, and her future. The dynamic changes entirely. She goes from asking, "Am I good enough for them?" to "Are they good enough for me?" That switch is everything. When a woman chases, she's often operating from a place of fear. Fear of being alone, fear of being unwanted, fear of missing out. She overgives, overinvests, and overthinks. She creates fantasy versions of people based on potential, not patterns. She becomes attached not to who someone really is, but to who she hopes they could be. And in that state, she loses sight of herself. She tolerates behaviors she would have never accepted if she weren't so focused on keeping someone around. The chase makes her blind to her own needs, but when she stops chasing, something incredible happens. Her clarity returns. She begins to see people for who they are, not who she wants them to be. She notices the inconsistencies, the red flags, the lack of effort. And instead of making excuses for those things, she makes decisions, because now she's choosing. She's not waiting to be chosen. She's not bending to be liked. She's holding standards and watching who rises to meet them. Choosing puts her back in the driver's seat of her life. It allows her to lead with confidence rather than desperation. She doesn't need someone to validate her existence, because she already knows her value. She doesn't romanticize the bare minimum, because she's no longer starving for affection. She's full on her own. And because she's full, she's able to discern real love from temporary attention. She can tell the difference between effort and empty promises. She's not impressed by intensity. She's looking for consistency. This doesn't mean she's closed off or unapproachable. It means she's intentional. She's not looking to fill a void. She's looking to share her life with someone who complements it, not complicates it. And because she's no longer chasing, she has the time and space to build herself, to invest in her goals, her passions, her purpose. She becomes magnetic not by seeking attention, but by focusing on her evolution. That magnetism attracts a different kind of energy, people who are inspired by her strength, not intimidated by it. When she's in this space, she's not afraid of walking away, not because she doesn't care, but because she cares deeply about herself. She would rather be alone than in the wrong company. She would rather wait than settle, and in doing so, she sets a tone, not just for how others treat her, but for how she treats herself. She is no longer in pursuit of love. She is the destination, and only those who are truly ready will make the journey.